I didn't wake up one day and decide to become this person. There was no clear moment, no conscious choice, no turning point I could point to. It happened quietly, over time, without discussion, without agreement, without me noticing when it started. I just looked up one day and realized this was my life, and this was me inside it. I wasn't unhappy. That's what made it difficult to understand. Nothing felt obviously wrong. Nothing felt broken. From the outside, everything made sense. I had become someone reliable, someone consistent, someone people could depend on. That version of me was useful. It worked well in the world, so I didn't question it. I assumed this was who I was supposed to become. I followed the path that felt logical, the one that avoided unnecessary risk, the one that came with explanations I could give others. Each step made sense on its own. That's how it worked. One decision led naturally to the next. Nothing felt forced. And because each choice was small, I never noticed the accumulation. Over time, I became someone shaped by practicality, by responsibility, by what seemed reasonable. I didn't reject my earlier self. I just stopped consulting him. The parts of me that were curious, uncertain, experimental, didn't disappear suddenly. They just stopped being invited into decisions. I told myself that was maturity, that this was what growing up looked like, and maybe it was. But something subtle was happening beneath that explanation. I was slowly outsourcing my identity to expectations, to habits, to momentum. I began introducing myself not by who I was, but by what I did. My life became easy to describe, which felt reassuring, but harder to feel connected to. I noticed it in small moments, when people asked what I wanted and my mind went blank, when I had free time and didn't know how to use it without structure, when old interests felt distant, almost unfamiliar, not irrelevant, just disconnected. I didn't feel like I had lost myself. I felt like I had misplaced myself, as if the version of me that once asked questions had stepped aside quietly, while another version took over. A more efficient version, a more acceptable version. That version handled things well. It showed up, it kept going. It knew how to function, but it didn't ask why. I had learned how to live without regularly checking in with myself. That's a strange skill to develop. You become very good at managing life while becoming less aware of who is doing the managing. I wasn't pretending. I wasn't lying to anyone. I genuinely believed this was me, until I started noticing the distance. Not pain, not regret. Distance. A quiet separation between who I appeared to be and who I remembered being. I couldn't say exactly when it happened. There was no betrayal, no dramatic compromise, just a series of reasonable decisions that slowly redefined me. Each one felt harmless. Taken together, they created a version of my life that looked complete but felt strangely impersonal. I didn't feel trapped. That's important. I felt established. An establishment can feel very similar to identity if you don't look closely. People recognized me for my reliability, my steadiness, my consistency. Those qualities became my reputation. And once something becomes your reputation, it's difficult to question it without feeling like you're disappointing someone, including yourself. I realized I had been maintaining a version of myself that I never consciously chose, not because it was wrong, but because it was familiar. It had momentum, and momentum doesn't ask for permission. It carries you forward until you stop to notice where you are. I thought identity was something you decided once and then carried forward. I didn't realize how often it's shaped by what you repeatedly tolerate, what you repeatedly postpone, what you repeatedly accept as good enough. I had accepted a life that worked. And in doing so, I had become someone who knew how to keep things running, but wasn't sure how to feel fully present inside them. That realization didn't come with panic. It came with quiet confusion. I asked myself a question that felt surprisingly difficult to answer. If I could remove expectations, history, and momentum, who would I choose to be now? I didn't have an answer. That wasn't alarming. It was revealing. It showed me how long it had been since I had asked myself anything like that. I understood then that identity doesn't disappear all at once. It erodes softly, gradually. It changes shape until it fits the life you're living rather than the life you would have chosen. I wasn't angry at myself. I wasn't ashamed. I was curious about how easily a life can become something you manage instead of something you participate in. I realized I had been loyal to a version of myself created by circumstance rather than intention. That loyalty had cost me awareness, but it hadn't taken everything. The parts of me I thought were gone weren't gone. They were quiet, waiting, not impatiently, not demanding attention, just waiting to be acknowledged again. I didn't need to reinvent myself. That idea felt overwhelming. I didn't need to reject the life I had built. That felt dishonest. What I needed was simpler. I needed to recognize that becoming someone by default is still becoming someone. And if I hadn't chosen this version consciously, I could at least begin to notice it consciously. That awareness changed how I moved through my days. Not dramatically, not visibly, but internally. I started paying attention to moments where I felt slightly misaligned, conversations where I went along without agreement, commitments I accepted without enthusiasm. I didn't correct them immediately, I just noticed. That was new. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't trying to optimize my life. I was trying to understand it. I stopped assuming that the person I had become was the final version. I allowed the idea that identity is not a destination, but a process. One that can be revisited, one that can be adjusted, one that requires attention, not urgency. I became more honest about what felt inherited versus what felt chosen, about what belonged to me and what I had simply grown used to. That honesty didn't demand immediate action. It asked for patience. It reminded me that awareness is the beginning, not the solution. I didn't suddenly know who I was, but I stopped pretending that I didn't have a choice. I became aware that the person I had become was not a mistake, just incomplete. And that incompleteness wasn't a failure. It was an invitation to participate again, instead of simply maintaining. I didn't remember choosing this version of myself, but for the first time I was aware that I could choose what came next, quietly, deliberately, without erasing the past, just by paying attention.